Hello friends, welcome to yet another exciting episode of DadSense. Today I have a really special guest. His name is Shiladitya Mukhopadhyaya. He is a business leader, entrepreneur, podcaster, and of course a father. Sheila and I go into a lot of areas, of course, mostly around fatherhood, how our life gets impacted by a lot of other things that we do, our work, our families, our social lives, and how do we structure parenting in the middle of all this. Shiladitya talks about juggling busy life along with his wife Shai and how they're raising their 3.5-year-old son. And that's quite fun and interesting to learn about. We also go into his childhood, talk about what shaped his childhood and what shaped his whole journey of life and who he is as a human being for his own fatherhood style. It's going to be a fun episode, so sit back, relax, and enjoy this wide-ranging conversation with Shiladitya Mukhopadhyaya. Morning, Sheila.
Morning, how are you?
I'm well. How are you doing? Thanks for doing this, on a nice Tuesday morning.
Yes, I know. I'm glad to be here. I know we've been talking about
I know.
catching up for a while, and of course we have a lot of common friends.
Exactly.
It's good to be introduced over time. And also meet a fellow podcaster, you might say.
That's right.
Though I've gotten out of it for a while now. I've been taking
You were the OG though.
No, I was in no way the OG. I was, I think, influenced by one of the OGs to jump into it, and it was a really enriching experience. Getting into podcasting content. For that time in my life, I think I did some interesting stuff. Met a lot of interesting people. That's what it was about.
That's exactly. I found out the same. Like you were talking about it right before this, that it's more of what you're learning is more important than what you're sharing. Actually, it's been a huge learning journey for me.
Yeah, likewise it was. I wish I could find the time amongst everything I'm doing to sort of go back to it. But life has taken different paths, and I guess that's what also we are here to talk about.
Exactly.
How
does fatherhood influence all the choices?
All of these things.
Yeah. Well, it's been a same journey for me as well. And this is one topic which we all live as fathers, fellow fathers. So that's the other thing we have in common.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about that. But if you go to the web, there's not a lot of dads talking about fatherhood, right? And that was the inspiration for me to start doing this as just conversations. And it's been a great learning journey.
No, it's great. It's great that you're making other dads also sort of talk about this. I think we end up talking about it mostly to our close friends, family, but we never make ourselves sort of structure our thoughts around it. And make it something which we can tell the whole world. Most dads actually aren't even ready. And likewise myself, like with my son who's 3.5 now, I think I'm learning something new about being a dad every other day.
So how does he, just to pivot to that, how does he react to you traveling?
Well,
what do you tell him?
Thankfully, or for better or worse, we have video calls nowadays.
Of course.
I was here. I was on my way here, and I was on a video call with him.
Nice.
Yeah, because it's school time. He's just heading in, and
he's in preschool.
He's in preschool. So those for few hours he's gonna be away from home anyway. So I had a quick chat with him.
And so where is Daddy? Daddy's in Bangalore. He knows that?
Yeah. Now he knows Bangalore because I come here often. I tell him about my routine. And I think I think as a child, they are growing up much faster.
Correct.
As their rate of growth on per day basis is way more than ours, right?
Our lives,
so they are living multiple experiences every week. So in that sense, I think his reaction to my traveling has also evolved. I've been traveling for some time now, once a month or so.
Yeah.
And he's getting used to that. He's getting used to the fact that, okay, this is part of what I do as a dad, I guess. We're not having those meaningful conversations, obviously, about it yet, given he's still a toddler.
Right.
But I think he's building his persona of me.
Yeah.
That I am this guy who's around. I work from home, by the way, when I am.
When you're in Bombay,
And I'm in Bombay.
Which is a
huge convenience.
Luxury.
It's changing over time, as we get back to offices and all of that. So, so far it's the way it is. Can't say how it will be later.
Of course.
But that combined with travel, I think he's formed that worldview.
That's a good balance, actually. I mean, compared to if you were going to office in Bombay and then traveling, right? Which a lot of dads have to do, right?
Probably.
I mean, this is great that when you're home, you're actually home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he knows when I'm in my work cabin at home, that's a work mode.
Yeah.
And he sees that also through the day.
Yeah.
He sometimes interrupts me, of course, like all toddlers his age.
Yeah.
So at least when I'm on video calls from home, I think every one of my colleagues has seen him.
Met them.
Met him.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So all of that, I think, and when he was an infant, it was very different. It was, he was reacting to just me being around him.
Yeah.
And that mattered more. I think as he's growing up, he's making himself busy, you might say.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I remember those days of my children. They're, of course, bit older now.
Yeah.
But, each phase of childhood is a phase in itself, is a life in itself.
Oh, absolutely. I can very much relate.
Yeah.
And everyone's told us that.
I bet.
You tell this to every new parent, even at my 3 years of experience.
Long experience.
I tell this to newborn dads now, saying, oh, the first weeks months, and then months. And they're all like very, very unique experiences.
True.
In itself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's go back to when you became a dad, right? I know we were talking about the culmination of many factors, in the backdrop of COVID as well. So take us back to when you became a dad, and also how it influenced your choices.
Yeah.
Let's just start there, and then kind of we'll meander around.
Sure. I think, one of the things also is the fact that both my wife and I, we are older parents in that sense. We had a child late. I think this was one of those things. We were both very much into our careers. I was doing a bunch of things with my startups, and I pretty much have been a startup entrepreneur from day one of my
That's incredible.
Getting out of college, you might say.
So you already had many babies before.
Yes, so
the human
that's
one.
all I knew. Let's just say this is all I knew. It became my personality or whatever. It just became my identity that I like to build things. I like to build things and see them take shape, whatever that may be. And not all of them worked out. And neither is it always a structured journey. As you know, with a startup, it's never is. In fact, you learn a ton of things every day.
Along
even
the
there.
way,
You make a lot of mistakes, a lot of failures, and hopefully learn and do better the next time around. So until COVID, this was the trajectory of my life. It was just from one thing to the next. Even the last thing I was doing before my current stint was also a startup which was figuring its way out. I joined a friend's company, trying to scale them, involved taking a flight every week. So we were doing our own thing. What I meant to say is my wife has had her own career, her own journey, again, very intense, very demanding. So we were both on our own trajectories, sort of meeting between travel schedules and finding our own time and taking holidays or whatever. But it was either about just us as individuals or
work.
our whatever little shared time together.
Yeah.
COVID put that.
And how did, like, just to pause on that, like, did you consciously say, okay, we're not there yet. We're not there yet in terms
I
of...
think we kept saying we'll get there,
Okay.
but we never knew, we never planned for it.
Sure.
You know, we never said, okay, at this year or
After
this
this
stage,
milestone, we will
after this
become-
milestone,
right.
because as a entrepreneur or a professional, if you're doing your own thing, if you never know how much is that milestone going to be a good place to pause,
Right.
because you're always running. You're always doing the next thing, or the next thing, or something a little bit more has to happen.
Yeah.
Right? It's never enough,
Right.
for that matter.
Right.
So that's the race we were on. Right. I don't want to call it a rat race, because it's a self journey. It's a journey you chose for yourself.
Sure.
And COVID sort of forced the brakes on that a little
Fascinating.
bit. Right? It said, okay, if nothing else, it put us in the house together.
Yeah.
And said, you know what, we have to focus inward.
Yeah.
Because also on like personal health and all of those things came into perspective, right?
Yeah.
When you're a little younger, you are careless about
Yeah, you
these
don't
things.
care about anything, your body or anything.
You don't care
just
about those things. So all of those things in 2020 sort of, like was with almost
The whole
a
world.
lot of the world, came into perspective. And with that came the right time to be a parent.
That's incredible.
So I am in a way grateful for that, the fact that this thing happened,
Yeah.
which forced our journey of parenting to begin.
Right. Wow.
And that's how it was. And that's when all of these things that we are talking about, career, and it suddenly was no longer about me.
Yep.
Definitely not about me, the dad, or me, the guy in the relationship. It was very much about her.
Yeah.
And obviously a lot of the choices that she had to make were more critical to this.
Yeah.
It was about how I can support that,
yes.
how I can support her. It became about that, and I loved that part of the journey.
Was it, and must have felt very different, right?
Yeah, very. Yeah. Like I
Just
said,
to kind of get used, you are pulling yourself out of the way.
You might say
For a great reason, though.
20 years of my life, all I thought about was, how do I make myself worth something?
Yeah, right.
Like not in the selfish manner, but it was all things I had to do.
Sure.
That didn't matter.
Right.
And now it was things I had to do for someone else.
Right.
And this whole new thing that's going to begin, which I had no experience in, obviously, and no idea about.
Yeah.
So that moment was a nice realization moment. I think it was a good pause. And I hopefully have done everything as best as I could.
Right.
Like everyone has, it's a learning journey. It's another startup, you might say.
Totally.
And that's how we took it.
Yeah. Again, like startups, you make mistakes, you learn, you
Yeah,
improve.
yeah. We did all the books. We did all the, as much as we could, again. We took advice from our friends.
Sure.
But pretty much it was us on our own. Mm-hmm. And I think we enjoyed that part. We enjoyed the fact that we're doing this on our own, and it's on us.
Yeah. How was... I'm curious to understand, what was some of the conversations like between you and... so your wife's name is...
Shreya.
So I guess, in all my life, and we can safely assume that moms sort of take to this a little bit more naturally than dads.
Yeah.
So what were some of your moments of learning, and how did she allow you to kind of embrace this new path?
I think...
How did that unfold?
I think the good part was that while, again, she was... absolutely, she embraced it as, as one does, as motherhood happens to you. It's a very physical thing as well, right?
Correct.
You go through a ton of emotions and all of that. I think that she was definitely welcoming. She knew she wanted to be a mom. And she loved it. But the fact that both of us didn't know or weren't prepared for how we had to manage the rest of the universe around us.
Yes.
Was what we came to, was we were coming to terms with that.
Right.
So I basically looked at it as, this is your you're the CEO of this, right? I'm your supporting COO or whatever you want to call it, and or CTO, whatever. I'm here for everything else. You just make
Chief
decisions.
Admin Officer.
Admin, HR.
Yeah.
I'm everything, right? You make the decisions. It's your call, and I will corral the forces
Right.
to make sure those decisions are executed on.
Yeah.
I think that's how at least I saw it.
Yeah.
And
That's a good start, right? Like, because you're sort of organizing yourself around.
Right. So whether it was doctors, whether it was COVID also, it was safety, and it was the pros and cons of doing this now versus whether the hospital, all of those things, all of those considerations at every step was where I said, okay, I tried my best to okay, these are all the options.
Yeah.
What do we do? Pros, cons.
Yeah.
It sounds like I was like a textbook a person, but absolutely not. It was not. It was me Googling something and then trying to correlate with whatever else I could. So it was that.
Right.
And then, of course, ensuring, again, like I said, it gave us a chance to be a little bit healthier with our lifestyle also. It changed us a little bit. All of that happened. I think in hindsight, it was chaotic. It felt a little, the anxiety levels were high, but it was great. I think the fact that the other stuff of stepping out of the house, traveling, social stuff, all of that was sort of taken away.
Yeah.
And I think that gave us a lot more opportunities to have more calmer conversations, you might say.
Yeah.
And we got through it. And then Devan was born in 2021 in May. And it was...
Wow, he's a Taurian baby. I'm a Taurian too.
in Mumbai, just before like the rains hit, it was peak summer.
Yeah.
And we had considered all of that, saying, oh my God, we are going to have these hot summer birthdays we are going to have to deal with. So we did all of that imagination around what our life is going to be like. Right. And then when he happened, of course, it was just one thing after the other. Then the you might say, there's no stopping.
Yeah.
There's no pause. There was no pause button.
Right.
After that.
Still going.
It's still going. I think I have not had the chance to do a pause button.
Right.
Ever since my son was born.
Yeah.
It was just like, wake up, take your coffee shot and get going.
Off you go.
Off you go. Those first 6 months, the 1 year.
Yeah.
Other dads would have experienced the same thing.
And so you said you did it on your own between both of you. What does that mean? Like,
yeah, that was also another thing which came naturally to us in that sense, because again, as individuals who ran our own thing, did our own thing all the time, we felt that we wanted to be, if not in control, but at least aware of everything in this journey.
Yeah.
We didn't want to outsource any part of the parenting journey to anyone. Right. Because it was our baby, literally, and we said we want to be there for him.
What were some of your can you recollect some of the choices that you would have made as a part of that thinking?
Yeah, all of this, right? So COVID, I was working from home. I think the fact that, and then once he was born in 2021, world was starting to open up again. And there was a possibility that I could get back into the whole grind of the startup life, which I was obviously, during a few days I took that pause, but it was always looming, right? It was always there that this is, if you want to really give it your all, you have to sort of lean in and do more than what's necessary in the job description, you might say. That's what all startup jobs are like. So then, again, in one of those ways of, let's say, my personal choice of wanting to support my wife and her career or her parenting journey, which was a lot more intense, obviously, especially in the initial years. Even my career choices sort of evolved, right? I wasn't looking out for a new gig or anything like that, but what I'm doing now at Truecaller sort of came my way. It came my way just after 6 months of my son being born, and when I was actually just thinking that, okay, how am I going to balance my schedule and all of this?
I guess the universe was, you just sort of putting it out
It came
there,
my way, and I mean, it's a great place, but it's a much more mature company, much more evolved corporate sort of a setup. It was more. I knew the folks here. They're very, very welcoming. Like, this is what we want to do. We want to, build the next phase of the journey of Truecaller. And this was much more structured and much more, you might say, predictable journey. Of course, comes with all its uncertainties and all of that. But the chance was that I get to work from home in Mumbai, because our offices are here in Bangalore, with the occasional bit of travel. So all of that sort of fell in place. I think it made much more sense to me that I was able to take up a role where I was a little bit more managerial, where I could use what I'd learned all these years over this time, without the intensity of being in a much more younger company. Because I wanted to basically make sure I am part of these initial years. I think the very initial
with Devan, right?
With Devan, yes, formative years right now that he's going through and will go through. Let's say, I mean, I think every dad will say every year until they leave, like the home or whatever. Teenagers are learning years, which I'll probably learn as well. But at least now,
these years are absolutely.
I think the super early years, like the 3s, the 5s, the 7s, are where I want to be physically around, aware. Make sure I can tune off. Let's say if it's like 7-8 p.m., I want to shut my brain from work and focus on what is here and now. And that doesn't happen in a startup.
You can't control
it's not about just your working hours. It's about your mind also, right? You're always thinking about this unsolved problem in your head. And I think
it was a conscious choice. That
it was.
I mean, it came your way, your new employment. But it kind of made sense to you, right?
Absolutely.
And fatherhood had a huge role to play in making that choice. Because I think that's when one of the things that I wanted to put a spotlight on. I think a lot of dads still work in the startup space, and they become parents, and not like if you become a dad, everyone leaves their startups. But what's the learning, and what is the mental model in which you want to approach fatherhood and work?
And I think it's very similar, again, because of the way I have shaped my worldview might be, right, over time. I have said, okay, when I do things myself, I know, good or bad, I at least control the outcomes as much as possible, right? If I put in enough effort, I'll crack something positive, and it will happen. I think that ethos, which I built over time doing my own thing, is what I'm bringing here as well.
Got it.
That if I don't get myself involved in the parenting aspect of bringing up this child, I will not know if I'm doing a good job or not. Right. So I think for everyone else also who faces, obviously, like you said, no one leaves their job to focus full time on this. The fact that I'm doing whatever I can, whatever capacity I have to be with my child or do the parenting bit, the fact that I'm doing that actually makes me even better at my job as well.
At your profession, yes.
At my profession as well. So it all depends on how much time you give both. As long as you're giving conscious effort there, and you can check yourself that, did I sort of let just that wing it, or did I really do enough? Did I just say was I busy with my phone when I should have been parenting? Or like, if you catch yourself, right,
Yeah.
then you know you care about
Yeah.
doing a good job, and you do, and then that's what happens. You end up doing a better job the next time around. Next time I sit with him, I'll not be on my phone.
Yeah.
I'll make sure that
What does this mean to you? Like, I'm just, again, going a little bit deeper.
Yeah.
Because, of course, we've grown up as children watching our parents parent.
Yeah.
And a generation of elder folks,
Yeah.
In that role. And now you're playing that role yourself. What does fatherhood mean to you? I know it's a very hard question.
Great question. I think, we've seen our parents, different generation, do their parenting a certain way. And whatever we remember, whatever we observe at that stage, was very different. For better or worse, we are very different parents now,
right,
as a generation, you might say, than our previous generation was. And what I have acknowledged eventually is also the fact that there is no right or wrong in the methodologies between these two types of parenting. It was what it was then, because that was all that was the opportunity that our parents had to do what they could. Like, they had to balance their own same things we are talking about now. They had to do career, they had to do raising a family, they had to
support
do
their
place in
partners.
life, they had to figure out how the world was changing and evolve with the change of the world. All of those things which we are dealing with. It's just that the specifics are different.
Right.
The
context is different.
The context is different. But what I do appreciate, and I like, and for those who ask, those rare times you get asked about, what was one thing your parents taught you, and all stuff like that, which you are trying to imbibe. I think one of those things is that I was given a lot of freedom, or I was encouraged to try new things a lot. And not as a child. And I don't think everyone in that generation did it. And I wouldn't have appreciated it at the time, probably, or even seen that as a huge difference.
Like what would be an example of that freedom?
I think the fact that, let's say, I am an entrepreneur today,
right,
and I became one right out of college, was because I was,
I would say, a minority.
Which is a rarity.
Yeah, absolutely. Rarity, actually, not even a minority.
It was very not, and especially from, let's say, my kind of upbringing or community, where we are not from a business family,
right?
Where you're encouraged to. No one in my generation was ever a business person.
Was an entrepreneur.
Or was an entrepreneur. Right. It was not seen as a vocation which you jumped into as maybe Bengalis, if you want to stereotype it a little bit. It was always we were always academically leaning. Like, both my parents, obviously academically big folks who did a lot of their work. They studied for ages, their PhDs and all of that. And we were encouraged, me and my sister were encouraged in the same vein, that you have to get your basics right.
Sure.
But at some point, we did see that despite their academic leanings, we were given a little bit of flexibility to figure out our personal preferences a little later. Like, I chose engineering on my own. It wasn't like I was forced to be, hey, you should be an engineer, you should
or
be
you
a
go into academics or whatever.
Yeah, I got a computer very early in my life,
right,
as a chance. Because
where did you grow up?
I grew up in Mumbai. I was born and brought up in Mumbai.
Right.
For a brief period, I spent some time in the US when my parents were studying. Like I said, their PhDs and all of that was happening in the US.
Right.
So I did go to like very early school in the US.
Got it.
Again, worldview, right?
Yeah.
The fact that they could do that shaped my worldview.
Sure.
I think I was exposed to a bunch of stuff which kids my age were never exposed to back home
in
back
India.
then.
Yeah.
Which included weird stuff like cable TV and cartoons and stuff,
Right.
which we just didn't have. None of us had in India at the time.
Yeah.
So when I came back, it was something I was, my expectations were already evolved
Right.
from
How old were you when?
this was like when I was 5.
Right.
I went when I was 5, came back when I was 9.
Sure.
Uh,
That's
so-
formative years.
Formative years, right?
Yeah.
So I had those 5 to 9. I was a different kind of upbringing. When I
Right.
post 9 here was a different kind of upbringing. So I think these opportunities and exposures helped me as a child to obviously learn different things.
Yeah.
But that freedom came eventually also showed up. Like
Sure.
when I got to choose engineering, because like I said, I got a computer early on. It was one of the things we got back from the US. And I loved it. I said, I love this new
Is it
technology,
toy? Yeah.
this thing which not too many people have. And there's so much to learn here. I just want to go deeper in this.
Yeah.
Contrast with what my parents were always talking about at home, because both of them are biologists.
Got it.
So they're always talking about all sorts of work and bio and very interesting things, of
Sure.
course, which I loved hearing about.
But you didn't gravitate towards.
But I
it.
didn't gravitate towards it.
Right.
I said, you know what? I love that you guys are passionate about your stuff that you've
yeah.
studied for decades for. But this is what I want to do. And
But you saw the passion though.
I saw the passion. So maybe
Yes.
maybe that's what I
Right.
took. I saw
Yeah.
that they really put
They
a
really
lot
engaged,
into their
involved.
work,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
they loved what they did. And that made me say that, okay, I have to do something I love.
Yeah.
I shouldn't do something because someone else is telling me.
I think that's how I've been thinking about it. Of course, I think about it a lot as a dad. And, you're always struggling, like, should I be talking about this stuff? And, how do I play my role? But eventually you watch and you pick up things
Yeah.
that are actually not being told to you or they are not being preached to you.
Yeah.
You're picking up on things like passion. Like your dad and mom were deeply passionate about their work.
Yeah.
And you picked it up.
Yeah.
Albeit in a different space.
Absolutely. And that's what I think is the biggest, one of the ways in which a parent can really
Right.
build these core values in your child.
The
It's
children,
not
yeah.
about if you direct. We know that like if you direct something at someone, you will
will catch it.
definitely never learn it.
Right.
But we learn through absorbing things
Yes.
over time. We were talking about podcasting,
Right.
and it's a similar thing. Like you tend to like podcasts where there's a long form sort of a conversation,
Right.
and you're listening into it, and maybe 90 minutes worth, you'll not remember all those 90 minutes, but you'll remember those few 2-3 minutes of core
Yeah.
thoughts that came out
Yes.
as a listener,
Yes.
right? And I think that's what part of growing up is also.
Right.
You're surrounded with your parents who are doing their own thing, they have to,
Yeah.
but you pick up on the nuggets of which form their personality and it forms yours.
Yeah.
So, coming back to what shaped my journey to become an entrepreneur, I think it was that. It was the fact that even though they've had jobs and careers, I don't think they ever projected it as, oh, I have to get to this job at 9 a.m. and I have to do this for someone else.
Right.
And this is the thing I'm doing to make ends meet and
Right.
all of that. They genuinely liked what they did.
Right.
And of course, I was probably not privy to the conversations they were having about their choices and all of that, because again, these are not things you actively spoke about.
Sure.
It was always do your own,
Right.
get your studies in order, get your life in order, sort
Yeah.
of instruction.
So coming
But-
back to fatherhood, how does that, how do you frame it in your head?
I think so far, whatever I have been able to, as a recurring theme, I try to bring back in, like I said, my 3.5 years of deep experience.
Right.
The recurring theme I try to bring back is be genuine. I think this is the one thing which I feel has impacted me from my parents.
Yeah.
And I definitely want to be genuine at all times with my son.
So when you say genuine, what does that mean? How does that play out?
It means that so let's say if I don't know something, I don't know.
Sure.
If I am stuck right now, I'm not able to do something, own up to that. Like, I'm not able to do this. Like, in the most, and be genuine also means don't share, like shield stuff. Don't cover it up with some softness or anything like that. That also is part of my be genuine parenting.
Like, for example,
like if something, let's say, toddlers as they are, they're dramatic, they do so much, they have their tantrums, they have, and because their brain can only handle so much. Right? But I actually try to talk to him as if he were a full-formed adult. And I don't know why. I mean, but I do this.
It's a great trait.
I talk to him in a full-formed, like, I try to say, I use some words which obviously he may not know the meaning to and all of that, but I use them. I say, this is what it is. This is the situation we are in right now. This is what needs to happen. And I know he's not absorbing. He's not getting it in the way that I'm saying. I would have said this to another adult. He's not. But every time I do that, I feel there's a little spark of in him that I am not faking it. I don't want him to feel that I am faking any part of the conversation with him. Because he sees me having conversations with his mother, with others, with the world around, right? I want him to feel that that's the same kind of conversation I'll have.
Same person he's dealing with, I think that's really, really relevant and important.
Like, I don't want to switch my face. Oh, now I'm your dad in dad
change
mode.
My voice and tone.
I don't want to do that.
Right.
I don't want, I mean, when he was a super small infant, I did that to entertain him. Right. But I'm trying to check myself on that more often.
That's very unique. The point I was thinking is in one of my last conversations, and it's part of our like macro overall culture in India, which is we treat our children with a lot of love, right? In fact, you see that a lot, even compared to some other cultures. But what we forget is the respect part. I think your point of talk to him like a fully formed adult. I know you're not doing it consciously, but it comes from a lot of respect, right? That's a human being that I'm dealing with. I don't need to like baby it down or dumb it down.
And I think it also is, in a way, I am trying to put myself in his shoes.
Right.
Because again, this is now that I'm talking about it, it's coming back to me. Growing up, I remember a lot of my early years and all of that, but I do remember that I felt older than I was. And maybe every child feels that. But I definitely felt older than I was by age. Or rather, I felt mentally older because I was having real conversations with my parents.
Got it.
Like, the oldest conversation I can remember probably was about some school thing or some random thing, something I wanted to do which probably wasn't in line with their what they wanted at the time. But I remember I could really throw solid arguments. Like, in my head, I was making a real logical argument. I was equal. Obviously, I was not. I didn't have the equity in that argument, equal equity in the argument. But I felt that I had a chance if I could reason with them.
Well, maybe they created that space for you.
They probably did, right?
Otherwise, you couldn't have.
Otherwise, it would be their way or the highway.
Correct.
Right? So I felt that I could reason with them and I could question whatever. I mean, I could throw logic back. And I always lost.
And it was accepted.
It was accepted, but I mean, I'm sure
you didn't get your way.
They got their way, but with logic, not their way because I say so.
I says so. I told you so. Right.
I think, and that's what I want to encourage in him. Like, hey, at one point, I expect him to push back.
Just have a bit of a conversation.
I expect that.
What does Shreya's approach look like? I mean,
and it's a little different. Right. I think, and for probably good reason.
For the better,
because
it's different styles.
If if it's just this kind of parenting, I mean, she probably jokes about it, half jokes about it, saying that this will become a law firm in like, in by the time he's 12, he'll be presenting
great arguments.
this is what it will become. So, thankfully, she's absolutely, definitely a lot more emotional.
Yeah.
Again, and this is a reflection on my growing up, why I got into what I do as an entrepreneur, technology, all of that. A lot of this was because I was able to approach these things with logic and all of that.
Right.
Whereas Shreya obviously is a lot more emotional. She solves for the emotion first.
Like what?
Like a tantrum is an emotional outburst, right?
Right.
So she will solve for the emotion first, and then go to the logic.
What is your reaction to tantrums?
No, I'm learning from her as well. I'm learning that part. I think but my natural rhythm is probably not to address the emotion
But
first, but to address the situation. Right? I think that's just how we are as people.
Right.
Whereas she will be like, listen, he's hurt. So solve the emotion.
Feeling? Yeah, how is he feeling?
Solve for the emotion, bring the emotion under control, and then maybe your logic will work, get through.
Yeah.
But if at this stage, emotion overwhelms them,
always,
right? So it's also that.
Actually, a lot of emotional regulation happens through that as well, right?
Yes.
Like how he's feeling acknowledged.
Yes.
And therefore, and how is the mom and dad reacting?
Yeah. Absolutely.
They pick up a lot from that, and we end up becoming like that.
Absolutely. So I think that way we have this good counterbalance between
the yin
us.
and the yang.
Yeah. So she addresses the emotional side first.
Yeah.
And it's needed at probably this age. It's needed a lot more than my logical problem solving approach. But I really appreciate that. I think she gets it way more.
Yeah.
As a person, and maybe even with adults, it's a great skill to have.
Yeah. I mean, we're just basically grown-up babies.
Yeah. So exactly, and I deal with everyone like as if they're robots. Like,
no, I know.
Oh, this is an instruction. This is you should be able to understand this instruction. Again, this is just the tech, the product person in me trying to solve for pieces of the problem. But I think it's a healthy parenting balance. We've managed so far in this journey. Like I said, I don't know what will happen once he's goes into the 5s, the 7s, the 12s. He will form his own personality.
Yeah.
And we'll have to adjust and accommodate that personality.
Sure. But I think this idea of emotional acknowledgement stays throughout the life. Like even we at work, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we so many times encounter situation, and I've been in HR.
Yeah.
When you're saying, this person is not performing or whatever, like, and you approach that performance through logic, saying you have everything, you have the tools, you have the knowledge, but why is this person not performing? Yeah. There's something more than what your logic is telling you, right? Turns out that there's something else going on.
So true. Exactly true, right? And again, this is where maybe even I am acknowledging that as a startup founder or as a business owner or whatever leader, you are not always equipped with all the tools to help someone.
Yeah.
As an individual, I'm saying like I'm saying, I'm acknowledging that my style is this, the product approach.
Yeah.
Right. You have everything. I'm here to empower you.
Right.
But I need someone, or the organization always needs someone to do the rest.
Right.
Of this emotional regulation.
Sure.
Even at large scale companies.
Yeah.
And you would know that for sure.
Yeah,
That's very much needed. Or at least you have to switch modes even as a leader.
That's right.
You have to switch modes to being this empathetic person in a conversation and ignore the bare facts of it.
Right.
And just be empathetic, get to the bottom of it.
Right. That's one of the things that I've been focusing a lot through this, parenting, dad conversations and work is, I think Varun, our common friend, has been focusing a lot on emotional intelligence in children, right?
Yes.
Because it has an impact on life and work and in the world. more than what we've all appreciated so far, right?
Yeah.
Somehow it just gets figured out.
Yeah.
Or it's, as it used to be called, and now it's still being called, soft skills.
Yes.
They're actually really important skills. They're not soft skills.
Yeah. We had to learn it our way. I mean, I'm
Right.
just reflecting on our
Conversation.
my upbringing as well.
Upbringing, yeah.
Soft skills was never something your parents talked to you about.
Right.
Like, they tell you about being nice. They
Yeah.
tell you about being kind. They tell
yeah.
you about compassion. Like,
Yeah.
I also had like some pets growing up.
Sure.
I think, and we still do. I
Yeah.
think that involves.
It does.
It helps you become compassionate towards other animals and
Yeah.
the world in general. All
Right.
of those. So there were always these artifacts which built your soft skills, right? It was never a prescriptive thing, and you were lucky if you got all those artifacts around you and that support system around you,
True.
which built your soft skills organically.
Right.
But I think what's happening now is there's a conscious effort to making sure that is not missed out, because it's equal importance to your academic skills.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's no longer a last 10%.
Yeah.
No,
absolutely not.
it's absolutely 50%.
And the foundation of that is being sown, right, at this toddler stage. I mean,
Yeah.
I vividly remember, I mean, we all have a very visceral reaction to kids crying.
Yeah.
It's, like you said, right, like you're not tapping into the emotions because we are feeling a sense of difficulty.
Yeah.
It makes us feeling uncomfortable, right?
Yeah, we feel inadequate. We feel irritated. We
Right.
feel like whatever. All of those things.
Yes.
We are reacting to that reaction.
Right.
Instead
and then
of
we project it with our reaction to them. Like our instant reactions, don't cry, right? Like it's a very natural reaction. A child's crying, don't cry,
Yeah.
which is absolutely the wrong thing to say,
Yeah.
right?
They don't know how to not.
Right. And that's the first thing that comes out of our mouth.
Always. I mean, even I still do it.
I do it
It's
naturally.
naturally.
Yeah. My son today said, I don't feel like going to school. Your first response is what do you need to tell them about getting them to agree to go to school, instead of tapping into that moment. He's saying, I don't feel like going to school, right? And I have had to train myself all my life
It's hard.
not to respond in a way that makes him feel like that emotion was not acknowledged.
Yeah.
So my second trained brain kicks in and says,
Yeah.
oh, you don't feel like going to school.
Yeah.
I understand, I know. That's my first pause.
Yeah.
Then the conversation goes forward.
And this is something which we. I'm not sure how many opportunities we've had growing up where this has happened
No,
with us.
probably not.
And to be honest, I still don't know how much to do that.
Yeah.
I am a little wary of doing too much of
Too
that.
much of acknowledgement. Yeah.
Right?
Of course.
Because even that it becomes a little too the expectations for everyone else around me will always do that also starts happening.
True.
I mean, could happen. I
Very-
don't know.
No,
I
very
think,
good point. Yeah. We can talk about that as well.
I think, and that's also a generational thing I'm seeing
Yes.
somewhat. I see other parents, I see
Yes.
other children who have grown up.
Yeah.
It seems like I see even people who've joined the workforce
workplace.
now, and
They want to
where-
feel
Yes,
Yes.
where there is a inherent expectation that you must acknowledge my emotional side first,
Right.
before the rest of it.
Yes.
And that creates a very weird
interesting
dynamic.
dynamics. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I agree with you. I constantly am trying to, as a leader at work and as a dad at home, you also have to, like it's the same example, going to school.
Yeah.
You, unless something is like terribly broken, which it's not,
Yeah.
right? They're just sort of venting or whatever. You want them to move on from there, right?
Yes.
Or at the workplace, you want that colleague of yours or team member of yours to start working.
Yes.
So how do you balance these two? Feeling acknowledged, but at the same time staying focused on the mission.
Exactly.
And I don't think that it's either or, right? That you're right. I mean, you can't just stay in that saying, I'm going to just keep listening to you.
Yeah.
Then everything else hijacked.
Yeah. So, I mean, we have to use that as a mechanism to help them realize the core whatever reason for why you're pushing them to school or why you're pushing them to
work harder. Or
I think that's what we are all trying to get at.
Right.
We're trying to make the other person self-realize about themselves and choose the path themselves.
Yes.
But I think if you do too much of one and not the other, then they don't choose the path.
Right.
They just want to be acknowledged.
True.
So I think, at least in my personal journey, I'm far from that. I think he needs a lot more emotional regulation at this age than he needs, like I was saying earlier. But I'm trying. I think as parents, both of us are exactly trying to do this balance.
Right.
By just playing our natural game.
Yeah.
I think if we do it in equal measure, he'll shape up fine.
But you're also learning as well along the way, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Like particularly from Shai, like you're learning so many things too.
Oh no! I am acknowledging myself as someone who's learning as well.
Right. Absolutely.
In this, I think I would not have been the kind of parent I am if I did not have that balance from her.
Right. If you just kept playing your game.
Yes, it would have. I would have become. I don't know if this is how my dad was. Today, my dad's so much more. To me, he's my friend.
Right.
And you go to that age at some point, right,
Sure.
where you sort of reconnect with your dad as a friend, as an equal, as a, I've gotten here now, so mutual respect or whatever that is.
And also some of your like old grievances are gone.
Now
that you've become a dad.
Yeah,
you know what you did right and you appreciate more.
Exactly. So we are at that stage, right? Where it's healthy banter always.
Yeah.
And of course he's a great granddad as well.
Right.
So I think if I didn't have Shreya's, sort of counter to what we are to my parenting style, I would also not have acknowledged how my parents what they did for me, like what I'm able to acknowledge to you right now. Like again, I don't have these conversations actively with them,
right.
But in my head, I'm acknowledging that both of them also had their unique styles.
Sure.
My dad did his thing, and my mom did her thing.
Yeah.
And now in hindsight, I see that now. I saw that they were also co-parenting in their own styles, balancing off of each other, and I'm doing the same.
Yeah.
It's actually parenting. It's
just teamwork.
2-person job. Yeah.
I mean, all those of us who are lucky to have been parented by mom and dad, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of kids who don't. So we have to sort of just really feel grateful about.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. No, and it's, again, to bring a startup analogy, it's like having a co-founder.
Yeah.
You are never, as a solo founder, there's so much on you.
True.
If you don't have that other person to take off some of that balance and just take it off, even if you don't understand it.
Right.
I think that's one of the things I've learned. I've had co-founders.
That's a fascinating analogy. Yeah.
Like there are some things which I don't need to know about. No need to because
get
right.
The other person has just completely gets that.
Just take this.
Yes.
Just please, you got this.
Yeah.
I cannot. And you are great at this,
right.
and I just cannot learn it right now. I can't be an equal stakeholder in it.
I can't be great at it.
I can't be great at it. I'll do my thing. You do your thing.
Yeah.
And this is and the whole gets formed.
That's
you
a
need
really good
that.
analogy.
You need that.
Yeah.
So we are in this co-founding journey, and we might switch roles at some point also when the need arises. Co-founders take on different things, like say stop doing HR, leave it to someone.
Yeah.
Stop doing.
You're the chief technology officer becomes the chief HR officer.
Yeah. Anything can happen.
Right.
It's just need of the hour,
Right.
So I think even that will happen with us at some point, I guess, where we will have to take on certain stands, personas within the parenting role.
Right.
And I'm ready for that.
Right.
As a dad, I think the one thing which I want to make sure I don't lose is my flexibility as a parent, right? This whole thing of, if I'm growing older, I'm acknowledging that I'm more rigid in my ways. Like we have seen our parents, like we've seen other adults around us.
Right.
We have our ways where we are super rigid.
Yeah.
But as for the things which matter to my child, I hope...
want to keep your flexibility.
I want to be...
And agility,
as much as I can.
Yes.
It's going to be a tough journey.
It is.
But I will figure it out. It also, by the way, comes to physical, like physically also you have
physical flexibility.
It matters. I am way more conscious about my health choices now, my physical, activity. I'm making sure, again, acknowledging that older parent situation a little bit. I think we have to physical...
Prioritize your health.
Yeah, physical health helps mental health also, right?
Yes.
If you're not physically fit, you'll not be mentally
no way
fit as well to deal with things.
Yeah.
So
I
think
both
that
feed into each other.
So I think that aspect also, like I just want to be available with all my resources.
Yes.
Physically and mentally for whatever he needs at each stage.
Yeah. What do you have any like physical health rituals that you started or you're kind of doubling down on?
I am
from that lens.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. So I think.
What do you do?
I was fairly fit before as well. I think. I mean, in general, I used to do a lot of running. I used to do a lot of.
Got it.
Did a few
even
marathons.
Before you became a.
Even before.
That's great. Got it.
That was more about my personal passion, and I think again as an entrepreneur, you just need some outlet.
Right.
I think that's what it was.
Yeah, running provides that nice. I do running as well.
Yeah. So, but after becoming a parent, my running's gone down a little.
Sure.
Running is not as much as I would have enjoyed it. But I have gotten into my diet's been a lot more controlled. I have a trainer now.
Yeah.
So I have a physical trainer who helps me stay fit, be regular more so than stay fit. It's just be regular. I think it's that forced effort which he shows up and says, we got to do this.
So accountability partner.
I think exactly. I think that is something which I'm very consciously doing.
Right.
Also going to sleep on time.
Sleep. Yep.
I think that's something I've realized is so much more precious after he was born.
Absolutely.
Because when I suddenly did not have sleep, it became a precious commodity.
You knew how underappreciated it was.
Exactly. So now we do that. So we do he goes to sleep whatever, late evening, 8-9ish.
Yeah.
I try to wrap up within an hour of that.
That's great.
And get my 7-8 hours as much as I can.
Yeah.
So that, I think these two are the main things. Yeah. And it's just to project on him as well to some extent. Yeah. Not consciously, but just the fact that, hey, I'm going to exercise now.
Yeah.
Or we have to go to sleep now.
Yeah.
It's sleep. It's time to sleep now. Take rest. All of that.
Yeah.
I think that is something which I had to do. There's no other choice.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was a no-brainer that this will be required as a base for me to be half good at anything else I want to do in my parenting.
Yeah, and I mean, does impact, like with your conversations, your ability to regulate your own emotions, particularly when you're raising a 3.5-year-old. Like, I cannot imagine how much emotions must be coming
Emotion
your way.
and energy.
Energy.
So he's like...
Yeah, you have to be ready to go.
Yeah, ready to go.
He doesn't care if you came back from Bangalore after 2 days of like real long days.
Yeah.
He's ready to play.
Yeah. So that's just that. I think that awareness of you need the physical base, basic fitness base you need to be able to parent well is also something.
Absolutely,
that's come up to me. I think it's become a part of me now.
Yeah. Speaking of that, I mean, you and your wife have very busy, demanding. Still, I mean, even when you joined a corporate role, it's pretty demanding from the sound of it. How do you what is the method to the madness of being parents? I'm asking from a point of view of a lot of listeners are struggling with that. Like we're all struggling with that. So what is
the joke answer is having a good shared Google Calendar.
Okay. I'll tell you, there's not a lot of parents who do that.
But it's helped at least visibility, from a visibility standpoint, because I have my own thing happening. Devan has his own schedule now. He goes to preschool. They have their own activities.
So you throw it in there too?
Yeah, all of it. like parent-teacher meeting and some activity, some park visit, some whatever. Again, I don't recommend this to people who are not already doing this.
Right.
But I'm fairly obsessive with my calendar. It just helps my day get...
keeps you sane.
I know what to expect.
Yeah.
But I think it's just, the crux of it is that both as parents, we know we have... we owe our time to our careers, so
of course.
So we need to know that these are times when I need to focus on work. Like, let's say I'm here this week is travel week for me, so I know I'll prioritize everything for work.
Sure.
But when I'm there, I try to make sure it's time bound.
Yep.
I try to make sure my meetings are done within a certain hour. I get my work done within the hours where he's occupied in something else.
Yeah.
All of that, right? It's basically just that we're getting through the weeks and months.
So how do you do you do this planning and calendaring on a Sunday weekly basis? How does it work?
Yeah, it's constant as things come
along, you're throwing it in there.
As far as possible, we try to.
That's really good.
Yeah, and we try to reward ourselves also. By the way, it's not just all work.
Yeah.
We also plan
dinner.
We have these 4 days where nothing's happening. Let's do a quick short trip out of the city.
Yeah.
Or if we have some longer time, let's make sure we, if we can travel, we travel. We've actually taken Devan with us on my work travel, her work travel, wherever possible.
That's the best way to do it.
He loves aeroplanes now. Right. He has been flying since he was, I think, 9 months old, and he enjoys it. He's become a nice traveler as well.
Yeah.
So this harks back to the same thing of exposure to new environments is a net positive for a child, is in my belief.
Yeah, so, I think they say, don't make the child's, don't revolve, don't tweak your world to the child's world, right? Because the child has to grow up into a real world.
They want the real world.
Real world, yeah.
So every time we travel with him, even if it's for like a 5-day thing or a 1 month, we have family in the US. We've gone to the US every summer since he was born.
Yeah.
And spent a month there.
Yeah.
I'm happy because I feel he just gets fresher air.
Yes. A lot more space to run around.
And space.
Yeah.
But every time we've done, he loves it. I think these experiences have really made him for the better.
Much more flexible, yeah.
Yeah, much more flexible, much more enthusiastic about travel and all of that. So
we did the same with our children. We used to be in the US and we'd come to India, the opposite, every year. And our kids just grew up not having to worry about travel or not throwing weird tantrums about traveling.
Correct.
Even in long flights.
Correct, same thing. So we're doing the same. I think we are staying sane by making sure for work is work, as compartmentalize it as much as possible.
Yeah.
And that's how it's going, I think.
What I know we'll be kind of starting to go winding down. I mean, there's a lot to talk about, but I want to touch on a couple of topics, which is more internal reflections, right? I mean, we try to get it all right, do our best to get it all right, but there are times when you don't. And to your point on being genuine, can you share any learnings that you've had where you're like, holy shit, this is I got it completely wrong? Or how do you even react to not knowing an answer and kind of, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think I've gotten it wrong so many times, for sure, because most unique situations you deal with as a first-time parent are things you have not prepared for, right? I mean, you can read and prepare, or you can hear from your parents, grandparents, whatever your surrounding. There's always a prescription. Yes. This is the way you do it. This is the way you should be done. But when it actually happens, you're unprepared. So whether it's been stuff like diet, food, or the amount of activity he gets, whether it's safe to with other kids, health stuff. Like, I think very early on we get I've started to see that there's tendencies around medication. There are some parents who are very
pro-medicine.
Pro-meds. There are some parents who are like not. Like, you don't want to put drugs in their system and all of that.
Right.
So all of these conflicting things are around, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know if any one way is the right way.
Right.
But you've done. So I think I've realized at some point I was also a little anti-meds. I think at the start I was like, no, let's keep it clean, because I was in that clean phase of life.
Right.
But I could see he's suffering. The guy, like, our environment isn't the best. You have to adapt.
Sure.
So early on there was some I made some mistakes when I was taking care of him, and
you wouldn't give him medicine?
Yeah, I was like a little like, he'll be
ho jayega,
yeah, he'll get better. And he's not getting better. Come on, it's struggling, the poor guy.
He needs the meds.
He needs to give him something, and then he reacted well.
Right.
So I think it's trying out all options is something I have learned over time.
Yeah.
Like that, there is no one prescription for a situation.
Yeah.
Even the emotional regulation bit.
Yeah.
Not all situations demand emotional regulation, or the lesson at that moment could be well taught differently.
Yes.
So it's very situational.
Yes.
Always. So I think I've gotten stuff wrong. We've both gotten stuff wrong, but we've tried to learn from it.
Yeah. I think that learning part is super important, because sometimes like our ego comes in the way.
Yeah.
And like, I know better, or this is how I was raised, whatever.
Exactly.
And you're reminded that you need to back off of that stance.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Your biases always come in when you're parenting. I think we all have it.
Yeah.
This is the thing about flexibility I was saying earlier, that I know I have some inherent bias. At some point I will push some bias on him, and I hope I can check myself at the time and be flexible to his whatever view is. So what you asked about mistakes, or what you asked when you say this learning journey of ours as well, right? I don't think we will ever finish learning fully.
Right.
Definitely, I don't know if I will be able to do a podcast like this with others, and it's great, of course, that you're enabling this to happen.
Right.
But I don't know if I can ever I write a book about parenting, for that matter.
Yeah.
Because I don't think I have even scratched the surface of what the right method is, or what a sure thing is.
Yeah.
Like what I tried last week probably will not work next week.
Right.
Is the stage of life I'm in.
Well, you're at 3.5. Like my son is 13 now, and I feel exactly the same. And I'm sure parents who have older kids would feel the same. The rules change. So they change.
You have to go with the flow every day.
And you have to adapt.
You have to adapt. And you have to have your best intentions, obviously. And not hope. I think you can little more than hope.
Yeah.
And you be sure that they will turn out right.
Yeah, I mean, if you keep to that, some of these principles, I think what stuck to me about your approach is definitely the be genuine part, and how you've approached building your own businesses and products and companies, and sort of bring that same approach, saying I'm not going to fake anything, and I'm going to own this. Those principles are actually is relevant and valid. The day may play out differently,
correct,
or the situation may be different, but your wanting to be genuine and being in that moment is a great one. It doesn't change. It shouldn't change.
And I think that's, if for whatever else happens, I think that's the only thing I would hope he picks up. In all of the next 18, 20, 25 years he spends absorbing from me. I think even if that goes through, I think it's a good job done.
True.
Because that will be a part of his core value system, and he should be able to use it to his advantage.
Yeah. Otherwise, I mean, he will become a person of who he is, right?
Yeah, he has to anyway.
Yes, yeah.
He will
has to
become
come
his
on
own
his own,
person.
right?
He will become his own personality for sure.
Right.
But if I can at least imbibe this one trait,
Yeah.
I think it's a good enough trait to have as a core value,
Yeah.
which will inform all his decisions, his risk taking appetite, whatever you might call it, all those other aspects of life.
Yeah.
That will build up.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
How do you, over a period of time, have you found yourself being curious about this at workplace, like with your team members and folks who are moms and dads? Has anything shifted on that front?
It's a little bit. I
Yeah.
think. I think I'm still in the phase of just giving this, let's say, a little bit of tidbits to new parents.
Yeah.
Because I'm
Right,
just
going through
off
that.
that journey,
Right.
or the newborn stage has just passed for me.
Yeah.
So I do a lot of reflecting with folks who are entering parenthood, or like just have newborns. I think
Yeah.
that audience is someone I can cater to.
Do you find
but
yourself being more plugged into or being more curious about the life stages of your team members?
Probably, yeah, a little bit. I think I appreciate it a lot more. When someone's becoming a new parent, I really I'm much more encouraging of them. I really appreciate that they've been able to take that. It's a big milestone. It's a huge
Yeah.
life decision, right? So I think I'm way more appreciative of it.
Right.
Because I'm a parent
You're a dad
myself.
yourself.
Yeah.
Right.
I think before that, it was an unknown.
Yeah.
And it was just an acknowledgement that, okay, this is something you have.
They become a father or a mother.
And
right.
It's great, obviously.
Yeah.
But it was something which I only acknowledged and couldn't appreciate personally.
Yeah.
I think I appreciate it way, way more. I said, okay, guys, you have your work cut out for you. This is something
incredible.
you need to be able to give enough time to as well.
Yes.
And focus to, along with work. I think that conversation is a lot more real, being a dad now,
Right.
versus being a boss only or whatever.
Right. I find that very fascinating, and we all know that, like you said, right, your role at home, your life at home fuels your life at work,
Yeah.
and your life as a dad fuels who you are as a leader.
Yes.
Right?
Very much.
So how has fatherhood impacted or informed your leadership?
Wow. Great question. I think I don't want to make the insinuation that I treat our folks as kids or babies or toddlers.
Right.
But I think the fact that you touched upon earlier as, let's say, the emotional side, acknowledging the emotional side of a lot of work situations,
Yeah.
which folks like yourself, when you approach it from a HR standpoint, always tend to do more of, was something I didn't do much.
Got it.
I'll be honest. That was not my natural
Sure.
approach to solving problems, like I
Right.
said earlier. I think that's something which I have learned to do a little better.
That's fascinating.
I don't know how much better
Sure.
at work, but at least something which I see myself doing more of because of my parenting journey. I
Right.
think otherwise it was very black and white.
Right. It was more
at
like
work.
a theoretical concept.
Yes, I mean, I know I acknowledge people's emotional state, but you don't throw tantrums at work, right? You have to peel the layers a little.
Sure.
bit. I think I just avoided doing that, or refrained from doing that, because I approached every work problem or work situation with, like I said, clear black and white of it. But I think I see myself doing that a little bit more for the better.
Got it.
And I think that's it's personally for me in my, like 25 years of work, it's a big change in my style of leadership, I would say.
Right.
It's still early days.
Yeah.
We'll see how much of it sticks, but
Yeah.
I think I see myself.
That's big. That's really big.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm glad that it's very hard to not being impacted by this journey of fatherhood, right? Thanks for sharing that.
No, I'm happy to. Well, like I said, we'll see how long, how much it goes.
Well, my prediction is it'll only get richer and richer.
Let's see.
Just knowing, staying on that path.
Yeah.
And my last question would be, for the very reason why I started this podcast, which is to, have other dads appreciate this and try and get more involved in the fatherhood journey. A lot of dads want to, all dads want to be dads, but we struggle a lot for very reasons, cultural reasons, and gender reasons and whatsoever. What would be your message to all dads to appreciate the journey and enjoy the experience of fatherhood more, who are not able to?
Wow, I think it is, as a human, opportunity. It's part of. It's, I think, becoming a dad is like one of those evolutionary things which happen with every human being.
Right.
If you have the opportunity to, I would say, until it happened to me, I thought of it as just another checkbox item in my journey of life. But I acknowledge it as a necessary condition now
Of
life. I think if you don't do this, you would not have lived a wholesome sort of you would have missed out on a very large experience of the humanity experience. When I talk about humanity in general, what it is to be a human being,
to be alive,
all of that, and this is all. Before this, it was about you, the individual. I always grew up saying, okay, our parents tell you, make yourself something.
Right.
Make something of yourself.
Yeah.
Right. That's the core value which we were taught, and that's what we were left to pasture with. Right. Make something of yourself. So you actualize just that.
That was the North Star. So you just ran
make something of yourself. Make something of yourself was all that it was.
Yeah.
That's what made me this entrepreneur.
Yeah.
That's what made me choose to take the career paths I've taken and choose to do everything else in life until I became a dad. Right. The moment I became a dad, I realized it is no longer about make myself something. It is about now this is the next stage of humanity. The next chapter in the human journey that you were living.
Yeah, the human experience.
Yeah. You now have to make sure that person or that individual or that, if for parents who have multiple kids, I think it's even more enriching.
Yeah.
Like that group of individuals is set for, they get that support system for those early years to set them on that same journey you were on.
Right.
So I think my message is to, if you have the opportunity to do it, embrace it as soon as you can. I think it is going to only make your life more meaningful and worthwhile, and embrace it fully and be genuine.
But thank you. That definitely resonated with me a lot. Thank you so much for spending the last hour. It was really enriching, and of course, we all realize that you can talk about this a lot more than what you can all capture in an hour. But hopefully, we'll get back together again.
No, sure. Thank you. I mean, this was I never expected I'll be in a conversation about being a dad and being a parent, but thank you for the opportunity and the forum that you've managed to make. Because this is a very unique journey which all of us, which so many folks have gone through, and most dads don't know how to talk about it.
Correct.
So I'm glad you've enabled us.
Thank you
To do so.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you, and we'll continue the conversation.
Thank you. Absolutely.
Great.